How come? How Lahti became a European green capital?
It was really quite a long process, of course, from the expertise that has started in Lahti already in the 1970s. The environmental work that has been done in preserving the local lake Vesijärvi, and from there, a lot of environmental expertise and research started to focus, especially in Lahti. After that, for example, waste separate sorting started already in 1990s in Lahti, and actually at the moment we are already recycling or utilizing 99% of waste materials from households, and only 0.5% is anymore going to the landfills.
Welcome to the Urbanista, where we discuss the water management challenges of Nordic cities. From safe drinking water distribution and stormwater collection to building sustainable urban living environments. Here is your host, Delphine Vesalo.
Hey, welcome back, Urbanistas. Thank you so much for pressing that play button. Really, we really appreciate that you keep following the conversation that we are having with interesting people. And that's our role here, having interesting conversations with interesting people in our industry. You know, conversation about sustainable urban development is increasing day by day. More and more cities are or want to be sustainable, want to have an environmental policy there. There are many cities across the Nordics who are even claiming we want to be the most sustainable city in Europe. Fine, there are many cities that are even saying those bold statements, politics aside. But you know, there's one city that was already way ahead of everybody else. And that is the city of Lahti in Finland. The city of Lahti is around 100 kilometers northeast of Helsinki, the capital, and roughly has 100,000 inhabitants. And it is certainly, near and dear to our heart. Because it's the city, the hometown of Uponor, where this company was founded over 100 years ago. But not only because of that, because Lahti, the city of Lahti, was nominated the Green Capital of Europe already in 2021. So certainly was and is way ahead of everybody else. So today, our guest, she knows a thing or two about sustainable urban development. So who are you and what do you do?
Yes, hello. I'm so happy that you invited me to this podcast. So I'm Jenni Rahkonen. I'm environmental coordinator in the city of Lahti, and I'm especially focusing on the circular economy issues and sustainable development. And we have an efficient team of 10 experts from different fields of environmental development, such as climate change, biodiversity, and planetary health.
Planetary health? That sounds interesting. What is exactly that?
Yeah, well, that's a nice idea that both the human health and the environmental health are actually really connected. And when the people are well, also the environment is well, and you can't really separate them from each other.
Okay, well, now this starts to be interesting. As I was saying in the introduction, yes, there's a lot of conversation around in municipalities, small or big. What do we do? How do we tackle this sustainability aspect? How do we incorporate circular economy practices into our operation and to running the city? But let's start from the basics, if you want. What do we mean exactly when we are talking about sustainable urban development, when we are talking about circular economy practices for a city?
Yeah, well, you have to think all the different aspects of sustainability, so about the ecological and social and economic sustainability in the city. And the city is a big user of resources and space, so it really needs to meet the needs of all the residents and minimizing the damage to the environment at the same time. And the aim of Lahti is to provide sustainable living environment for and also well-being for the residents. And actually, Lahti just published the first sustainability report this spring, and it was prepared with the experts from different fields from our team, environmental development, as well citizen well-being, economy and city company management teams, and in the our aspect, the ecological sustainability considered especially the topics of climate work, promoting circular economy, biodiversity, and the water environment, as well as the planetary health issues.
So how these reports are prepared is something that internally you, your team, or someone at large inside of the city office are preparing, and this is validated by a third party, by the citizens, or how these reports are prepared exactly?
Yeah, well, this was, of course, the first year that we had this report, but we are discussing this a lot with the different units from the city, and deciding what are really the important and interesting things for all the citizens to learn more about the cities that are located in the area, but also those funding, who are giving funding for cities to develop their environmental work. So these kind of interesting topics were selected.
So it's a collaborative effort, not just, of course, from the people working, officially in the city, but do you also talk to local organizations, whether they are for-profit or non-profit? I don't know. So is that type of dialogue that you have with the citizens?
Yes, that's important. For this first sustainability report, we especially focused on the aspects that city is doing, and for example, in the social sustainability, of course, about the employment or the education in the area. But very important part was the city-owned companies that are, for example, providing the water management or waste management in the area, and the aspects how these companies are also promoting sustainability in the Lahti.
Because this is an effort of many people, many institutions, as you say, many areas or departments inside of the city. It kind of sounds a bit challenging that everybody, or to get everybody on the same page, or pushing toward the same direction. And I don't know, what are the challenges that you have been, or you have faced in this journey? I don't know, from people who just doesn't want to change because, well, they don't want to change it, or old habits perhaps, budgets. I don't know, which do you think have been the main challenges that you have faced?
Yeah, well, as you said, the old habits is one big thing, and overall changing the way that we all think, and especially when you think about circular economy, how to change from the current model, from the linear model, where you just make, use, and throw away materials and products, to that circular economy where there is no throwing away phase, but the materials are used again and again. And that's the big thing, how to change the minds of people, and how to change the normal business models, how we have been working for years and years, and that the price is not the only thing that matters, but also the whole life cycle cost and the environmental effects of products and materials.
Because many times when we have been talking to people about circular economy, or the concept of circular economy, pretty much everybody just goes down immediately to recycling. Yes, we should be recycling materials or recycling the garbage, separating, and that's about it. But this goes way beyond that, just processing and separating and reusing garbage, right? You mentioned about reusing materials in many different ways.
Yeah. Well, overall, I think the mindset should be changed to that in the future there might be even more shortages of material and energy, and we should be using them more and not just thinking about only that recycling or waste part, but where we actually get those materials in the future, and also thinking about the security of the supply of all the raw materials, and about reducing overall the consumption of all the materials, and about reducing how much emissions we are producing.
Yeah, because one thing is to, at the very, the very start of the chain, to use renewable materials already with in mind, forward thinking when and how those materials will be recycled or reused and for whatever purpose they will. And you may think, well, wood or any material that can be easily recycled, that is renewable. And for when we think about, for example, many of the products that we produce are plastic. Some of them recycled plastic, and also we said they can be recycled. But yeah, fine. Manufacturers can offer products that can be recycled, but in the end, we are not the ones who will be recycling them at the end of the life. It's mostly the city. So finding out, this is a true collaborative effort. There's not, we do it together or it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, we really need a lot of cooperation, and also already in the public procurement phase, the city really needs to discuss together with the companies about the possibilities, that what kind of solutions are possible to buy in, and how to take care of the end life of the products, and there is happening so much that these kind of discussions are needed a lot, and the public procurement has a so big effect, and the cities are buying with millions or billions of euros, so they have really big effect when you are for example demanding in the procurement phase some recycled material to be used in the products, and you just need to discuss with the providers what is possible and what can be developed more.
Actually, yes. In this procurement process, can you just explain more about, independently of which is the purpose of any given project, or what's the scope of public infrastructure, or renewing some part of the city, a square, a street, a daycare, I don't know. In this procurement process, how the sustainability, how much is the weight that really the sustainability aspect plays there? If you take into account the materials, yes, renewable materials, the carbon footprint that those materials have behind in their production or in their life. So how do you, which type of requisites you put, perhaps? There's a lot of talking about the EPDs, environmental product declarations, that should come the product with the stated the carbon footprint, etc. But how much weight the sustainability aspect has in these procurement processes?
Yeah, well, of course, depending on the products, and if it's a service that is bought, that depends a lot. Of course, I'm not the expert on the procurement, but I know that in Lahti these kind of procurement processes have been developed a lot, and the sustainability aspect is rising all the time, so that the price is not the only thing that matters in the procurement process. And all the time we are finding new ways how to add more of these points, how to raise the sustainable solutions in the procurement process, and for that we also need the expertise from the companies that tell what can be demanded, for example, what materials are possible to provide, and like how to improve those criteria, so that we are able to choose those sustainable possibilities.
The sustainable options, right? So this is already coming from 2021 when I mentioned when Lahti was awarded with the European Green Capital. So how come? How Lahti became a European Green Capital?
Yeah, well, it was really quite a long process, of course, from the expertise that has started in Lahti already in the 1970s, especially in the environmental work that has been done in preserving the local lake Vesijärvi, and from there a lot of environmental expertise and research started to focus, especially in Lahti. After that, for example, waste separate sorting started already in 1990s in Lahti, and actually at the moment we are already recycling or utilizing 99% of waste materials from households, and only 0.5% is anymore going to the landfills. And about half is recycled, and less than half is then going to the energy utilization nowadays. And then one big step in the environmental work in Lahti was when we abandoned the use of coal in district heating in 2019. And now Lahti is heated with recycled fuel as well as the local certified wood. And then, for example, in 2017, we already introduced the first regional roadmap for circular economy in Lahti area in Päijänne. And then we have these ambitious goals for future to become carbon neutral by 2025, and a really big target of becoming a zero waste city in 2050. So all this ambitious environmental work that has started already for decades, but also we are looking at the future and not really stopping for only this environmental capital year, but developing the environmental work all the time. So I think these are the main steps.
As you have been explaining, this clearly doesn't happen overnight because somebody decided it and now we are going to be green and let's go and do it. But this requires a lot of planning. And as you were saying, even from the 70s, the journey in the city of Lahti started way back in the 70s with some, visionary people or whatever we're going to call them that started the journey and started this type of job for the cities that may just be starting now or thinking to start, I don't know, still a long way to go. So if this whole journey that you have had has taken 20, 30 years. So, from other cities that are just starting to think, they better need to speed up. So you were talking about all these practices that you already previewed or were building up to make Lahti what is nowadays. And all these specific characteristics practices that may or may not be transferable to other cities the same size, the same type of location, environment.
Yeah, so there are so many different examples from the environmental work done in Lahti. So nothing huge big steps, but many small steps in the different aspects of environmental work, and the big encouragement point for Lahti's environmental work was preserving the Lake Vesijärvi, as it was in very bad condition, but after some years it's now people can swim there and enjoy the environment, and it's something that all the citizens really saw the big change that was done and how the environmental work is it's good to do that for all the citizens.
Yes, because since many cities, Nordic cities, are by the lake or are besides a lake, and of course, in Finland, because we have how many? 188,000 lakes. So it's highly likely that any given city will be just next to a lake. but the water, starting from the water. So keep the water sources in good shape, not just because you can go and swim, because eventually that water may be used for other purposes, including human consumption. So is that, I mean, the water management is one of the key aspects, or would you say is one of the points, starting points?
Yeah, in Lahti, the water is so important part. So because of the drinking water, one of the cleanest drinking water in the whole world, and then it's the water is seen all around in the lakes, all around Lahti area. So I think, and nowadays the water management is there is a lot of expertise in Lahti area for that, and also the city city experts have a lot of knowledge about how to take care of the condition of the lake, and for example, I don't know
the whole
word for English.
Cycle, the whole management, if you want, from extracting the water from the source for whatever purpose we want the water. If it is human consumption, well, it needs to be of certain quality, and then after we humans we use the water, it goes down the drain. It should happen something, of course, treatment, and however is sent back into nature. That water is super important, so we don't leave our foot. There you go. We don't leave our footprint on the city.
Yes.
So that's one of the key things. Actually, yes, you mentioned this has been quite a journey of many, actually decades of continuous working, focusing on being green or being sustainable. But also you mentioned, and actually, we read it on the website from Lahti that we can put a link on the show notes. What's next for Lahti? And you mentioned it. The objective is to be carbon neutral by 2025. This is just, 2 years ahead. By 2025, which means 10 years before the government objective, the Finnish government objective, which is 2035, and 25 years early than the entire European Union goal. So that's quite an ambitious. We are 2023. How are we doing? Are we getting there in 2 years?
Yeah, that really is so ambitious goal, and we have been following how we are getting to this target, and now we have already reduced 70% of the emissions compared to the year 1990, where we are comparing our goal. So we are in a good track, but really big reduction of emissions was this abandoning the coal in district heating, and now there are no more like these big reduction possibilities. We just have to collect from very many different streams these reductions, and the most important parts are the heating of houses and then the transport. So it's really important that we move from using our own cars, using gasoline or benzene, to cycling, walking more, using public transportation, and also electric cars. So there are so many different things that we need to do, and all the citizens and companies and the city have to participate to reach this goal.
So this is clearly a highly collaborative effort.
Yes.
And it's not just because someone at the City of Lahti decided let's be sustainable, but it's really a true collaboration amongst all the players, the city, the citizenship, whoever, industrial manufacturers that are producing things then for the use of the city. But at the very center of this, we have been talking with many urban planners, which are the people who sit and then start to, even if you want to futurize, to see where do we want to take this place or this city or this. So that's the starting of the chain. What would you advise or suggest to all these urban planners and in all the cities, that from where to start planning or envisioning this future carbon footprint or this future net zero city?
Yeah, well, that's a good and big question. Well, I think this cooperation is really important, and I think none of these strategies or programs to reduce the emissions can be done only by ourselves. So the city planners inside the city need to collaborate with other units a lot, but also consider what the local companies think in the area. And for example, the city of Lahti has got a lot of encouragement because already during the environmental capital year, there was a lot of interest from the companies to locate the business in Lahti area because of they had heard about the good environmental work and the possibility to use the coal-free energy in the area. So I think that when you get this good circle rolling, that the more you do environmental work, then you get more companies to come to the area because of that, and then there is more environmental business happening in the area. It's just feeding itself, and more environmental
properly the circular or closing the circle, if you want. Yes, you are, as you stated, you start from somewhere, you start to be sustainable, you start to use recycled materials, you get a good the ball running, you get a good reputation. That's why you're attracting new companies, new investment, which can be green, yes, and also that investment of course brings money to the city, which increases the economical performance of the city, which increases the quality of life of the citizens, and where we start all over again. So that is, well, once, and I guess the city of Lahti already is in this inertia of going, and it's just, well, a bit more pushing this ball to become a snowball, really, and that keeps rolling by itself. Cooperation, dialogue, and understanding of the citizens' needs. So those are the kind of the three things that I'm getting, or if we want to summarize this conversation. And I guess those are some of the key ingredients for the success or for the success of Lahti. Anything else that you want to add? What else, if we are missing anything, Lahti has done right?
Well, we already a little bit discussed it, but overall the participation of citizens, that is something really, really interesting. Not only the communication towards citizens about all the possibilities and how to reduce their own footprint, but also all the ideas that we get from the citizens. Both during the environmental capital year, there was a lot of great ideas from citizens that also got some funding, very local ideas, for example, like trash picking equipment for some housing areas, or some money for sustainable work with youth and children, and dialogues with young people. But also this participatory budgeting, that people were able to suggest some good ideas for the environmental budget that we had reserved, and then people were able to vote for the best possibilities, and for example making a cherry tree park for the city of Lahti, or these kind of nice examples that all the citizens can then enjoy.
There you go. For the enjoyment or final enjoyment of the citizens, and I guess, and those citizens includes our children, our grandchildren, whenever they come. But that's why we are doing all this. Thank you very much, Jenni. There you go, Urbanistas. This is the example that the city of Lahti has set up already. And thank you so much, Urbanistas. And we'll be coming back with more interesting people saying very interesting things. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Urbanista podcast, a production of Uponor Infra, the leader in sustainable infrastructure solutions. If you found it interesting, why don't you share it with your colleagues? We all together can move our industry forward.